Everyone, welcome to another Narc Survivor live video. In this one, we're going to be talking about what's the worst thing that you can do to a narcissist. Because many of you may have been hurt by the narcissist. They may have done things to you that you didn't like, that you didn't approve of, that you didn't want them to do, and now maybe you want to make them feel the way that you felt when they did those things to you. You want to get revenge. You want to make them feel bad. But honestly, it's not how most people think. It's not so much about stopping them or sabotaging them, because you gotta look at it like this. If you think that what they're doing is wrong, then why would you intervene? Why would you stop them? Instead, it will be best just to let them continue on that path, because it is a path of self-destruction. Narcissism is self-destructive. So the worst thing that you can do to a narcissist is to enable them. And this is why they don't enable you. This is why they don't support you. Because unlike them, you belong in a position of power and authority. And for you, things will go right when you are in that position. And they know that, and that's why they treat you as their subordinate. Because otherwise they know it's going to lead to your success. And you're going to do very well. And of course, that's why they then devalued you in the relationship. Because they can already see where things are going. But then because they lack the self-awareness, they don't realize that by them being in a position of power and authority, that's not going to lead them anywhere good. Because they're not meant to be in the driver's seat. They're not meant to be the captain of the ship. But there's really nothing you can tell them in regards to that, because narcissists are very afraid, and they will see it as though you're trying to manipulate them, because that's what happened to them in their childhood. And now by this point, of course, there's nothing that you can say to them. They're going to continue on that course. They're going to continue on that path no matter what. And some victims, they do manage to expose the narcissist. And by doing that, that can sometimes trigger self-reflection, or it gives them the opportunity to play the victim and garner sympathy and support from someone else, which could also lead them to a better position. But honestly, the worst thing that you can do is to enable them, is to let them continue on that path of self-destruction. Because that's all that they're going to do. They abuse power, they abuse their position. It's not going to result in anything good. And of course, us as victims, we should know that by now. After all of the time that we spent with them, and they always wanted to be in control, and when did that get them? Of course, it didn't lead them anywhere good. So yeah, the worst thing that you can do is to enable a narcissist. And I'm sure many of you who have enabled the narcissist so far, you know that more than anyone, that it didn't make them happy, it didn't make them grateful, it didn't do anything for them. It just made them even more miserable, even more mad. So if you're looking to get revenge, if you're looking to hurt the narcissist, that's really the most effective way to do it, is to enable them. And of course, we're seeing that a lot these days in this age of entitlement, where people always think that they deserve something for nothing, as though they're entitled to things without putting in the work, without earning it. And just look at these people, look at where it gets them. They destroy themselves, they destroy their lives. Just like when you see these overnight celebrities, they end up getting into drugs and they get around with the wrong people. Many of them take their own lives. Because it's really the worst thing that you can do to a narcissist is to give them the world. Or if you've already given them the world, don't take it back. But I myself, as you know, I never really cared about getting revenge on narcissists. For me, I always wanted to be just this kind of like this hidden Samaritan, almost like Batman, where I kind of work behind the scenes and try to coordinate everything so that hopefully I can get some narcissists to see sense and lead them to the right direction, because that's really my mission, that's really what I'm trying to do. And that's why personally I advise against that. And what I would say is just to go no contact and just leave the narcissist to their own devices. And especially if they haven't got any other support. That's usually the best option for them, because then it could trigger self-reflection. It could trigger them to grow. Now that is very rare, but sometimes it can happen. And that's really what I'd like to see for these narcissists. I would like to see them change. I would like to see them grow. I would like to see things get better for them. Because of course, everything is connected. It has a knock-on effect. So, what we wish for one person, we wish for everyone else. How we do one thing is how we do everything. But then at the same time, I can understand that many of you may be hurt. Many of you may be upset after what you've gone through, after what the narcissist did to you. And you may want to see them hurt, upset, feeling like they did the wrong thing, feeling like they mistreated you. You may want to see that, and I completely understand, because especially at the beginning of the healing journey, that is going to be what you will want to see. After how they treated you, after everything they did to you. And that's perfectly normal, because you're still hurt, you haven't moved on yet. But that's another thing as well, because hurting them is not going to help you to move on. That's only going to keep you stuck. It's going to keep you enmeshed to where you can't then focus on yourself. You can't just move on with your life, which should be what you're focusing on. But yeah, if you really do want to get revenge on the narcissist, this is the worst thing that you can do to them. Enable them. Let them continue. Because I'm sure the narcissists you were dealing with, what were they up to? Maybe they were an alcoholic. Maybe they were using drugs. They were going to the bar every night. They were having one-night stands, sleeping around. They were maybe visiting, engaged in prostitution. They were doing all of these things. And maybe it affected their health. Maybe they got STIs. Maybe they were up late every night and then they didn't turn up to work the next morning. So all of these things are going to lead to their demise. And that's why there's no reason for you to step in. There's no reason for you to intervene. Narcissists are set up to fail. They're already predestined. They're already doomed. Because just that mentality, just that mode of behavior, it doesn't result in anything good. Narcissism never results in anything positive. It causes a lot of destruction. And then all they can do after that is be fake. All they can do is just pretend like everything's okay. And deep down they're dying inside. But many of you may have seen the narcissists move on with the new supply. And it may look like they're living their best lives. It may look like they're having such a great time without you. And so you may want to step in, you may want to intervene. Because it just looks like they did all of these things to you and they got away with it. But yeah, that's just how it looks like. And they may have looked that way at the beginning when they were with you. But then how did things pan out? What was it like when you saw that real person beneath the mask? All of that aggression, that rage, because that's who they really are. They're never going to be happy, they're never going to move on. Especially not if you enable them. If you let them continue with their new supply in their grandiosity, it's going to lead to their demise. It may not seem that way at first, but I can assure you it will. Things may start off small. Initially, they may just have the one new source, and then suddenly they got all of these other sources, and maybe they're taking care of them. Maybe they got a bunch of different people pregnant, and maybe first they were just drinking alcohol, then they're smoking weed, and then later on they're moving on to harder drugs, then they're doing cocaine, and then they just completely ruin their lives. That's often what happens. And this is often what we see with celebrities. Because the last thing they want to do is to go within. They don't want to reflect on what's inside. And of course they don't have to. When they got all of this supply, they got all of these people around them, they got all of this money, everything's at their disposal. Why would they ever need to self-reflect? Why would they ever need to build this relationship with themselves? Why would they ever need to do that? Of course they wouldn't. Because they've got all of these distractions. They've got all of this stuff around them. And that's why the best thing you can do is to just let them. Let them do what they want to do. Let them continue on that path. Because it will lead to their demise. It will lead to their destruction. But I will say that it can be very cruel to do that. But then at the same time, it's like, what else can you do? Because no matter what you say, they're not going to listen. They're not going to understand. Even though they may have seen it with their narcissistic parents, who maybe went on the same path, they did the same thing, and they may have seen exactly where that got them. They may have seen that that didn't get them anywhere good. And despite that, they will still do the exact same thing. It's like they're on a conveyor belt lifestyle. It's like there's just a bunch of narcissists standing in a line, taking turns to jump off a cliff. And they're not bungee jumping. They're just diving straight off, and they can't even see what's coming. But this is just how it is. This is just how it's going to be for them. If you feel bad for your narcissist, if you want to save them, honestly, the best thing that you can do is to leave them, go no contact, don't seek revenge, and just leave them by themselves. And maybe what could help is exposing them to the new source, revealing who they are. Now that could also leave them in quite a dangerous position, to where some narcissists may try to take their own lives, but then in some rare situations, some narcissists do actually self-reflect when they've got no one else there for them, when they've got no one who they can turn to. So that can happen as well. But as long as they've got all of these distractions, all of these people around them, and they've got all of this money, all of these things at their disposal, as long as they've got all of that, why would they ever go inside? And that means that they will remain weak, with a weak character. And that's how anything that they get into, any relationship or venture, inevitably it's going to fall apart. It's not going to turn out well for them. And even if it did go well for a certain amount of time, they wouldn't enjoy it, they wouldn't be happy with it, because they can't be happy with anything. They can't be satisfied. They have a void that can never be filled. So no matter what they do, no matter where they go, they're not going to be happy with it. Just as they were never happy with you. Just think back and remember all of the things that you did for them. Remember all of the abuse that you put up with. But no matter what you did, it wasn't good enough. They were never satisfied with it. So what makes you think that they're going to be happy with someone else in another situation? Of course not. They might be initially, because it props up the false self, it helps them to maintain this image. But then in time, they begin to feel vulnerable, threatened. It doesn't last after the honeymoon period. And then they begin to devalue the new source, just as they devalued you. Because no one's perfect, and even if they were, the narcissist would still find something wrong with them. The narcissist would still destroy them. Because that's what narcissists do. And they're not going to do something different just because you're gone. They're still going to be that same old narcissist. And nothing and no one is going to change that. The only thing that could change it is if they are isolated, if they do have to spend some time alone, then yes, there may be a chance in some rare cases where they may self-reflect, they may develop some self-awareness. But even then, I mean, there are self-aware narcissists out there who, yes, they are aware of their condition, but then they still have ill intentions. They're still very toxic and they're not looking to improve on anything. So what you have to realize is that there really isn't too much that you can do about it. It is outside of your control. This is to do with them and their condition, and the odds are that if you just leave them to it, if you let them get on with it with the news source, you don't intervene, it will lead to their demise. It will lead to their destruction. And the only thing that could possibly save them is if you expose them, is if you isolate them. Because then that way they have no distractions. They have nothing at their disposal, so all they can do is go within and self-reflect. And by doing that, then they may develop some self-awareness. It may build their character. But of course, yes, that is extremely rare. However, there are meant to be at least 2 self-aware narcissists on YouTube, and they're both married. They became self-aware, they're still with their partners, they're on their healing journeys. So it can happen, even though, yes, it may be rare. But I know many of you, you're still in the early stages of your healing journey. And it's like you just want to see them hurt. You want to see them going through it. You want to see them feeling pain after how they made you feel, after what they did to you. And I know exactly what that's like. I've experienced it myself. As I spoke about in the live video yesterday, I was with a narcissist who I broke up with back in 2017. And by the end of it, she made me feel completely worthless inside. She made me feel like I was nothing. As though anyone else would be better than me. And it just made me feel so small. I entered a state of depression, and then I tried to take my own life. Now, of course, I was a completely different person to the man that I am today. Back then, I was a lot younger. I was weaker emotionally. But yeah, this is what they can do. They can make you feel so small. They can make you feel so insignificant. Like you're nothing, like you never matter to them. As a result of the things that they do to you. When they cheat on you, they lie to you, they steal from you. They triangulate you. They do all of these things, and all along they act like they don't know what they're doing. But at some level, they do know. They know that they're trying to manage and control your perception of yourself and of them and of the world around them. They do know what they're doing. And they're doing it intentionally to target your self-esteem so that they can maintain control of you. So so that they can keep you as their source of supply. But yeah, I know exactly how it feels. It doesn't feel good when they put you down, when they make you feel so small. And naturally, as it is with anyone, with any human, we want people to feel how we feel. We want people to recognize and experience our emotions. That's what everyone wants. We all just want people to feel how we feel inside, because then at least we don't have to feel alone. And you know what? That's the same thing when you're really happy. You want everyone else to be happy too. And when you're sad, you want other people to resonate with your sadness. You want them to understand. And I get it, I know. But once you develop the awareness of this, once you understand the process that's going on in your mind, it can then help you to defeat it, to where you no longer need to act on these thoughts and emotions. And that really is the secret. Because otherwise you're operating off of it unconsciously, and it can lead to some unfavorable results, to where you feel like you're not in full control of your actions and you're doing things that you wouldn't normally do. And it's because you want to get that response. You want to make them feel the way that you do. But the best thing to do is to work on that self-regulation, managing your emotions. And of course, that's something that I had to learn how to do. But I can control my own emotional state, and I'm in full control of it. I can move it up and down whenever I choose to. And once you master that, it really makes you a great listener. It helps to develop your listening skills, your communication skills. Because then, although you may be happy, you may be having a great day, but maybe your friend is feeling down, maybe your friend just experienced a rough breakup, and you're able to come down, you're able to resonate with your friends, the sadness, their heartbreak. And that really comes from learning how to master our emotional state. But of course, it's easier said than done when you're involved with a narcissist, because their MO is to provoke you. It is to shift your emotional state. And sometimes they may want you to feel sad, other times they may want you to feel happy, as long as they're the cause of it. And sometimes they can want you to feel the same way that they do. Other times they can want you to feel the opposite. But often what happens is they use you to regulate their emotions, so it can appear that way, but actually they didn't feel so good until after they dumped their trauma onto you. And then they started to feel better about themselves. And of course, this isn't just with narcissists. It can happen with us as well. If someone has hurt us, we may then temporarily feel better if we hurt them, and we see that they feel the same way that we do. And that's because we're viewing them as a part of ourselves. We're trying to establish some form of connection to them, when really all that we have to do is just go within and regulate ourselves. And that's what I advise everyone to do. I mean, when you think about it, what you're really looking for, what you're seeking, I mean, it's really just that emotional regulation. When you're seeking revenge on someone, you just want to feel better about yourself. But you actually don't have to do anything to anyone to feel better. And in fact, there's no better validation than the validation that comes from within. Validating yourself can be more powerful than any validation that you can get from anyone. But it takes time for you to train your mind to operate in this way. But when you do, when you master it, it can be very effective. But of course, I can understand as well that some of you, it may not be so much about revenge, but maybe they've taken something from you. Maybe they got full custody of the children. Maybe they stole your money, your possessions. And of course, I can understand that. And in those situations, I mean, that's not so much about revenge. That may not be about revenge at all. It's just, you just want what's yours. And that's perfectly understandable. But those of you who you really just want to know what is the worst thing that you can do to a narcissist, it really is just to enable them. Just to continue with that congruence, be in harmony with what they're trying to do, with what they're trying to accomplish, with the direction that they're going in. Don't fight it. Don't resist it. Go with it. Stay on that same frequency as them. Flow with it. Because by doing that, it then enables their self-destructive behavior. But when you're confronting them, when you're holding them accountable, then it creates the possibility of change, which means that things could improve, things could get better for them. But as I mentioned, for myself, I believe that we're all meant to grow as a collective, and honestly, I believe that the most evil thing that we can do is to stand in the way of someone's growth and development. We should all be enabling people to grow rather than to destroy themselves. But of course, if you read any scriptures, that's exactly what the devil wants us to do. But then I understand many of you are at the beginning of your healing journey, and you shouldn't feel bad about yourself for having these thoughts, these fantasies. I can completely relate to that as well. And it's perfectly understandable that you're thinking about it, you're fantasizing about it. It's on your mind. I get that. And just know that with time that will pass. Sometimes we feel something in the moment and then we want to act on it. And again, it comes with that emotional awareness and emotional intelligence is to recognize that, yes, while you may be feeling this way right now, in a certain amount of time, you may feel differently. And if you did act on those emotions, then you may have felt bad about it afterwards. You may have felt guilty. And I'm sure many of you can resonate with that. Especially those of you, if like myself, as I've done in the past, where you take the narcissist back after they hoovered you, and you're intimate with them again, and in the moment you had that feeling, you felt like you wanted it, but then afterwards it can often feel so shameful, as though you did the wrong thing. And that's very important to recognize as well. You may feel a certain way in the moment, but time will pass and then you will feel different. And you will feel a lot better, more empowered to know that you overcame those emotions without having to act on them. But as for these narcissists, they get very emotional and they act on it, and then later they feel a lot of shame because of it. As I mentioned before, they will be haunted by their actions. Wherever they go, that shame, that damage, it will follow them. All of the things that they did to you, all of the things that they did to people before you, that will go wherever they go. And you know, you shouldn't even worry about getting revenge. You should just be happy that that garbage is out of your life. And remember all of the times that they argued with you. Remember all of the things that they did to you. Just think about it like this. That's all going with them wherever they go. They're taking that trash out of your life. They're throwing out the garbage for you. And yet many of us, because maybe we're trauma bonded, we've been manipulated, gaslighted, we feel like it's our fault, or we think that we love the narcissist, we're holding on to this garbage, and it could absolutely stink. But we have these hopes that maybe at some point in the future it could change. But really, you just gotta let it go. It's garbage. It's no good to you. And don't worry about getting revenge. It's no good. Just let it go where it needs to go. And that's really how you got to think about it. Now, there's a reason why they come after you. There's a reason why they intervene in your life. Why they come back to you, they hoover you. There's a reason for all of that. Because they know if they don't intervene, then you're going to be doing a lot better without them. Yes, at some level they understand their toxicity, their corruption, their foulness. They understand that they're contaminated, they're decaying, they're rotten from the inside. And that's how they know. When they see you thriving, when they see that your energy has shifted, you're no longer thinking about them, you're focusing on moving on with your life, they know that all they got to do is just come back and be this present figure in your life, and it's not going to feel good for you. It's going to hold you down. It's going to make you feel miserable, depressed, anxious, stressed. And they don't think of it that way. They actually enjoy it because they lack self-awareness. They're disconnected from themselves. And that's why you may see some narcissists, they deliberately try to make you uncomfortable. They try to suffocate you. They're very overbearing. It's like they're always standing over you, staring at you, watching you. And some of them, because they're so disconnected from themselves, some narcissists, and not anyone that I was actually in a relationship with myself, but just people that I've seen out in public, some of them, they could absolutely stink. They could smell a BO. And then they see your reaction. They see that you can smell it. And then you might see that little narcissistic smirk. They're getting off in it, knowing that they have repulsed you, that they've made you uncomfortable. It doesn't bother them so much because then they're disconnected from themselves. They lack self-awareness, so they can repulse you. They can bring their corruption, their rottenness, their decay back into your life, knowing that it's going to affect you without feeling any shame. And that's how they do it. But it's not going to work that way with you. You try to go back with a narcissist, that's not going to bring them down. You are a potent source of supply to them. That's just going to give them more energy. They're going to feel a lot happier. They're going to become more lively. They're going to be so much better with you trying to come back to them. And that's just how you got to think about it. Your goals, they're a pile of poop. If they get around you, that's not going to be good for you. But if the goal that you are is around them, or they come back to you, that's going to be great for them. Because you're the one with the value. And that's why they're the ones who pursue you. But then also sometimes us as empaths, we can pursue, but because we want to help people, and that's what it was with me with some narcissists, where they played the victim and I felt bad for them. I wanted to help them. So yeah, we can pursue as well. But yeah, that's the worst thing you can do to the narcissist. Enable them. Let them continue. Stay on that frequency. Maintain that balance, that equilibrium. Don't fight it. Don't resist it. Let it continue. Because if you really believe that it's not good, that it's harmful, it's destructive, then you should know it's not going to lead them anywhere good. If you give them enough rope, they will hang themselves. And that damage will follow them wherever they go. Well, as for you, by not resisting it, it's not going to harm you. That harm, it comes from the resistance of it. Now let's see what people are saying in the live chat today. See that this time we have got moderators in here. Good to see you guys here. The Jord, Faith, the Crocs makeup artist. Thank you for being here with us. Any questions about this topic, let me know. Because I know what I'm saying in this video, it could be considered quite controversial. It's probably not something that you've heard before. This is one of my own original concepts that I came up with. But I've mentioned it a few times already because this is something I really believe in. and I've witnessed it myself in my own experience with narcissists. JWW says, my narcissist ex-wife of 8.5 years of marriage discarded me on the 20th of November 2023. Sorry to hear that, JWW. But I hope you are doing well now. I hope you're healing. Sherry Al-Hassan asks, do they even have a conscience? I don't think so personally. Sometimes it may seem as though they do. It may seem as though they do know the difference between right and wrong, but they're just looking at what's socially acceptable. And if something else became socially acceptable tomorrow, believe me, they would do that. So they can change. There's nothing inside, there's nothing that centers them. There's no actual values, beliefs, or principles coming from within. It's all just things that they have read, that they have learned from other people, of how they're expected to behave in society. Because they have no sense of self, they have no identity. So they don't, well, they know the difference between right and wrong because they study people. But then, if you know what I mean, they also don't know the difference between right and wrong. They have knowledge about what's meant to be right and wrong, but they don't believe that for themselves. Because remember, they're special. They're entitled. They're the best thing since sliced bread. In their minds, they're above the law. They're invincible. They can do whatever they want. They don't have to conform to anything. The rules are for you. They can do whatever they like. That's how they think. And that's how, with psychopaths, everything's just in the moment. They feel like they can do anything. And they're not even worried about the consequences. They're not even worried about getting caught. So I don't believe that they do have a true conscience. But it's something where they actually, they feel it inside, where it's like, they know that this is right or this is wrong. But also logically as well, based on facts or statistics. Remember, they operate more off of emotions. But then also having that feeling, just that feeling of purpose, of duty, of just feeling like something is wrong or that something is right. That could be good too, because that can also drive us, it can motivate us. But for myself, I prefer to focus more on facts and statistics, and then my emotions follow. Because sometimes our emotions can get us into a lot of trouble. Where we feel so deeply that something is right, only to find out later on that we were wrong. And that's why research and gaining understanding, that's very important. I mean, just because you feel something, that doesn't always have to mean anything. And I remember I heard in a video recently on science of how an eyewitness is actually the least trusted or reliable source of gaining data, information. It's the least trusted source. So it's not always about what we see or what we feel. What we need to focus on are the facts. Michelle Hollis says everyone has free will to do what they want to do. This means that you can too. Let people think what they want to think. Protect yourself, their own boundaries. You don't have to accept what people think. Well said, Michelle. But when you're with a narcissist, it's like you have less free will, less human rights, less freedom than someone who's on death row. That's literally what it's like. And just whatever you do, you just can't even be happy. You can't move on with your life. If they see that you're succeeding, they can't stand it. When you're with a narcissist, it really just strips you of your free will. But that being said as well, I mean, science does show that we don't really have free will. I'm not really an expert in that. I have done some research on it. But yeah, it does state that what we think is our free will, we don't really have it. And really we're just running off of programming from our childhood, from what we've already learned. But then, of course, there's the argument that what if you can become more conscious, more aware? And, you know, this is spoken about in science as well, about consciousness. But I don't want to get too deep into that. Grumpy Author 7 says, as an empath, you soon realize that you had everything you needed all along within you. The world built you for these times. I agree with that. I do believe that empaths, we are built to survive. Of course, narcissists don't believe that. They see it as though it's weak to have empathy, it's weak to care about people. But honestly, I believe that that is our strength. I believe that that can motivate you more than anything else. Narcissists, they tend to be motivated or driven more by their sex drive. But as for us as empaths, we're more motivated to protect people instead. Paul Clinton says, yes, we care about people, but there are millions of people who are not worth your care. I mean, yes, I guess we could argue that some people are not deserving of our care. But although that may be true, I think we should care for them anyway. Maybe not directly, as they may harm us, but at least from behind the scenes. I mean, we have evolved over the years, and especially if you look at prisons in the UK and the US, they're very different to what they used to be in the Middle Ages. Now we even treat prisoners with respect. They have rights. And they get to visit their families. And in many countries now, they've taken away the death penalty. And I do think that that's a step in the right direction. Because I don't believe that anyone has the right to take away another person's life. Even though, yes, some people do that. There are murderers, serial killers. But if we really believe that that's wrong, then what gives us the right to do that same thing to them? So that's how we've got to see it. I mean, if everyone did that, if everyone just thought, oh, this person did that, so now that gives me the right to do it to them or to someone else, what kind of world will we be living in? And of course, this is the world we're living in because that's what most people do. As Gandhi said, an eye for an eye leaves the whole world blind. And it's true, it really does. But it's because many people, they see this as weakness. But actually it's strength. Especially if you look at humanity as a whole. Because then it makes us stronger together. And of course it takes that emotional strength, that ability to self-regulate. Well, although yes, someone may have done something wrong, you don't let yourself become more like them. And honestly, I believe that that's what a lot of them want. They want you to become more like them. Because misery loves company. As I said earlier, they want you to feel the way that they feel. And once they've done that, their job is done. Then they feel better about themselves. Then they can blame you. So yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with you, Paul. Maybe there are millions of people who are not worth our care. But I still believe that we should do what we can to try and make this world better. The best that we can. Especially think about the future generations. I mean, how you do one thing, that's how you do everything. It has a chain reaction, a knock-on effect. You can't just not care about certain people, because that's going to affect other people as well. Give me a thumbs up down below if you're finding this video helpful so far. Michelle Hollis asks, can you speak on how narcissists are low vibrating? Yes, narcissists are low vibrational because they're vibrating at the frequency of shame and sometimes fear or even pride as well, desire. But even with pride, it's a false sense of pride. So it's mostly just shame. They're shame-based people. So yes, they are vibrating at a very low level. And they will bring you down to the lower vibrations. They may make you feel guilt, shame, fear, pride, desire. These are all low vibrational emotions. Lorraine Dan says, narcissists are like ghosts. You can't communicate with them. They don't belong in this world. Yeah, they are like ghosts. The George says they can't stand you being happy and content ever. Yeah, that's right. And that's how you know that they're never happy. Because if they were happy, they would be comfortable with your happiness. They would help to sustain it. But honestly, even when I'm feeling sad, I'm feeling down, I still enjoy other people's happiness because it just raises my spirits. It makes me feel happy as well. Candy Foley says, hey, you'd be surprised how many narcissists are really out here and how entitled they really are, their feelings and rights are all that matters. Yeah, there are a lot of narcissists out there. And actually, I'm going to start doing some videos soon on narcissists on TikTok. I'm going to do some compilation videos, put it together, and upload it here onto the channel. I was just having a little look through it earlier today, and I was quite shocked at what I found, what's viral on there as well. Some really sick stuff. There's some things, some sexual content involving animals, a baby monkey, children, and a lot of things with rape themes as well. And I just find it very disturbing. But I would like to bring some exposure to this, because a lot of these things, they do have hidden meanings. But yeah, it's really dark, and especially when you see all of the likes and the comments, you see all of the people supporting this stuff. It's getting really bad. But I think this is the next step for us, is to expose these types of content, which is now becoming viral as well. We're going to expose all of this together, and we're going to make a big difference in this world. Sherry Alasan says, facts, the nicer you are to them, they seem to get more evil. Yeah, that's because they see it as though you're only nice to them because of the false self, and you don't really like them. And they may also see it as manipulation, because they don't really believe that anyone could be nice to them, not genuinely. You can probably hear the rain out here. In a couple of days, me and Nala will be going to stay by the forest and the waterfalls. So it should be more peaceful out there. Because here there's a lot of noise, a lot of construction, and there's all of this going on opposite me as well. Many of you don't see everything that's always happening around me, and yet how I still manage to maintain my composure, even with all of the sounds that many of you can't hear in the background, and just a lot of the things going on. But yeah, that's the most important thing for us as survivors, is maintaining our composure, self-regulating. Because these narcissists, they will try to provoke you. They will try to label you as the abuser. They will call you the narcissist. And that's how you've got to learn to manage your emotions. You've got to maintain your composure. But yeah, I hope you found this video helpful, and if you did, give me a thumbs up down below. Let's get this video out there. Hit subscribe and click all notifications to be notified when I go live again. Donations are greatly appreciated, no matter how small. You can donate to my PayPal. It is paypal.me/Narc Survivor. And if you'd like to book a one-on-one coaching session with me, just go to my website. It is narcsurvivor.co.uk. Also, follow me on Instagram. It's Narc Survivor YouTube. And let me know your thoughts about this video in the comment section. I read your comments every day. Thank you all for joining me on another Narc Survivor live video. And I will talk to you soon.